All right, guys, thank you for those updates. Right now, we're going to welcome our social media queen, host of Cyberly, Blythe Brumleve, to the show. Blythe, thanks for joining us this week. It's good to have you back.
Thank you guys for having me. Always happy to be here.
So, Blythe, I feel like I'm always behind in trends, no matter how hard I try. First, it was TikTok. Now I'm hearing about VR being so yesterday after I just got a Meta headset.
You just got your VR goggles?
Just got my VR goggles.
Ugh.
And now it sounds like people are going to go the way of augmented reality. What can you tell us about this?
So it was a really interesting study, or not both an interesting study and then also an interesting position that Facebook kind of finds itself in. There are users that are pretty much dropping like flies from their traditional platform, which is essentially why they have gone all into the metaverse and VR. They've purchased Oculus years back for multi-billion dollars, and they're using that hardware technology in order to create the next phase of their company. So they released some initial screenshots of what it looks like, and it kind of looks like the Nintendo Wii, like first generation from years ago. So it sort of brings to light of the conversation of how businesses, how marketers within those businesses should be treating things like the metaverse that is owned by Facebook, by Meta. And so there was an interesting study that was done by Digiday, which is a media sort of reporting site. They report on social media trends and just the attention economy in general. And they surveyed more than 360 marketers. And all of those marketers said that they are using over the last 5 years that VR use has dropped and AR use, which is augmented reality, has dramatically increased. So much so that the Facebook platforms such as Instagram and Facebook itself are seeing a tremendous amount of use for AR side of things versus VR, which if you don't know the difference between the two, the VR requires a headset while AR is more of the filters that you use in Instagram and in Snapchat and in TikTok, or the green screen backgrounds. It's a lot of interesting use cases for AR, which first really rose to prominence with the use of the Pokemon Go game, which sort of, took everybody by storm a few years back. But that is essentially the future of what sort of the quote unquote metaverse is looking like, that it's more of an AR side of things versus VR.
I think that this is really interesting because I think when a lot of companies were betting on VR, they were betting on a consumer's desire to escape their reality, right? And to drop them into an alternate world by literally sensory deprivation, by cutting off what they were seeing, by cutting off what they were hearing, and immersing them into this virtual reality. But AR is more like taking this reality and making it your world, right? So you are still acutely aware of, like, I might be in the studio here like this with an Instagram filter on, I just look different. And it's interesting to think about that now companies are taking more of we don't want you to be dropped into this reality, we want you to make it your own, right? I think we lost Blythe. Oh no.
That's what's happening with a lot of these different platforms, is that they are investing heavily into guys. Oh, well, it looks like I'm still on. So, well, with a lot of these different companies that there are investing into AR, that's what they've seen with a lot of their uses, is that for a lot of social media and a lot of users of social media, is that they are taking these different interactive experiences and they can actually create them on their own. They don't have to. With VR, there's so much of a hindrance that you have to have these really high level developers in order to entice users to then come to your platform. With AR, it's much of a lower barrier of entry on both the development side of things and the creator side of things. So that's why this adoption has happened so much more quickly, and it's happening on different social media platforms. I think it was really interesting that Snapchat has kind of paved the way for a lot of these AR experiences, but they, as far as how marketers are using these platforms, they have dropped in the use from Snapchat being the number one dominant platform to where Instagram is first, followed closely by Facebook, and then other platforms like TikTok are actually above Snapchat now, where Snapchat was the king and they've kind of been knocked off a little bit.
So Blythe, I want to kind of get your thoughts on this when we go from an alternate reality into actual reality, and the social media companies that are choosing to make reality now popular, thinking of Be Real. So Be Real is that app, for those who might not know, is where you get the notification and you have 2 minutes to post a picture of what you're doing, like real time right then. So it's supposed to take the pressure off, no filters, no perfection of the Instagram, right? And it's kind of this almost coming back to us being who we are as humans and not these perfect internet creatures, which a lot of companies are trying to make us. Do you think that that has its place in kind of the marketing world, and that it can make people almost more relatable to kind of take that approach to social media, not necessarily using Be Real as a platform, but almost to kind of take their approach and put it into your marketing strategy?
Oh yeah, I mean, Instagram is already reportedly trying to copy what Be Real is doing, and Be Real is, for those who don't know, is the app that pings you once a day, and you have to take a photo of yourself and then what you're doing, and you have to, in order to see your feed, you have to post to it your own Be Real. So Instagram is already reportedly working on a similar functionality. They can't really innovate anymore, so they just steal other apps' ideas. And so what we're seeing is a shift in mindset where, you know, for the past 2 years, everybody has kind of been locked down into their homes. They haven't been able to really go anywhere and do anything and see anything. So VR was amazing during that time. But now people want to get back out into the world. They want to start using their cell phones as a complement to their life, not their entire life. And I think that that's the biggest difference. And now, for when you think about VR versus AR, there's also a lot of retail uses for AR. You know, virtually, you know, trying on clothes at home. Trying on clothes is one of the biggest sort of hindrance to e-commerce, because you have to factor in the reverse logistics of that, of your shopping habits, and that could be very expensive. Only bigger companies like Amazon and Walmarts of the world can really eat those costs. The smaller retailers cannot. So AR does have the ability to sort of bring that, you know, that real world environment into your everyday existence, where you're using AR not just for fun social media filters, but you're also using it for realistic purchases that will hopefully, you know, make your life easier and, you know, maybe make the company a little bit of extra money when they don't have to pay for reverse logistics.
Blythe, do you see, excuse me, any possibility or potential for AR and VR kind of merging together? I start thinking of like those high-end sci-fi movies with those crazy contact lenses that gives details around everything, almost like when I'm on Amazon Video and I can just pause it and kind of look at different items on the screen. Do you see that as a potential kind of moving into maybe the next phase of AR, really kind of a merging of the two?
Yeah, it kind of exists, or they're trying to build it right now in what's called the, you know, Web3, the metaverse. And so you have these different retail locations that you can virtually walk into a store, and then you can use some of these. And these stores are built as if they're real world environments. There is actually a Rodeo Drive that is being these metaverse worlds, and looking at a lot of these different capabilities. A lot of those capabilities really exist when you do merge the two worlds together, but it still, at the end of the day, comes down to a hardware issue. Are a lot of these different companies, are they investing in the hardware? Because hardware is the hardest part of a lot of different technology. That's why Apple has succeeded for so long, is because they're really good at hardware. It's the software side of things that is a little bit easier of a barrier of entry. And so what you're seeing is that, of course, there are going to be, you know, instances in the future where you can have these worlds merged together, but it really comes down to the user behavior. Are they going to invest in the hardware? Is the hardware going to be around for a long time? Is one company like Facebook going to control all of this hardware, or is it going to be, you know, theoretically, you want it to be a bunch of different companies creating these different experiences, so that it does ring true as far as the open web and what the ultimate goal of what Web3 is going to be. Right now, we kind of see the fractions, you know, sort of splintering off, where you have the Web3 world, then you have virtual reality, and then you have AR. I think the future is going to be a combination of all three.
It's going to be an interesting thing to watch for sure. I think probably my future will just involve zero participation in any of it.
You know, speaking of childhood stuff, I really want the Dragon Ball Z power reader so I can see people's power levels. That was my cars growing up, so that's how I would use it.
Anthony's still always late to the trends.
Right. We'll get you some AR Dragon Ball Z in order to fulfill that childhood dream.
It will be a dream come true. Blythe, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to head on over to Sydney Edwards for a full report of our top stories on freightwaves.com.